you could well imagine, participants in our RCIA programs are generally full of questions. And actually, they are questions that show deep curiosity and that are challenging and very insightful. And one of those questions, which actually ties in very well with today's gospel, usually involves the crucifix. Why do Catholics keep the body of Jesus on the cross, while other Christian churches simply use a plain cross? I think this is a good question, and I think it is an important question. More than the other Gospels, St. Luke shows Jesus in prayer. Our Gospel reading started out this morning by saying Jesus was in prayer at this time, and whenever that happened, it seemed like something profound followed. Well, in today's passage, St. Luke takes great pains to place Jesus' conversation with his disciples in that context of prayer, and then it must have been really startling for them to have Jesus interrupt that prayer and ask them, "Who do the crowd say that I am?" Well, of course, the disciples answered his question by sharing with him the speculation that they had heard that was going around town. But then Jesus pushes aside their answers, and he becomes more direct with them. And he challenges the disciples to look inward and tell him plainly, "Who do you say that I am?" And of course, at first the disciples were silent. They did not really know, because the real identity of Jesus at this time was still not clear to them. Jesus was a mystery, and he pulled them deeper into his life. Well, then St. Peter had a moment of revelation that must have really astonished his companions. And St. Peter says, "You are the Christ of God." Well, surely Jesus was pleased by Peter's response. But then Jesus added something that I think we still struggle to understand. Jesus said, "I am the Christ of God, and I am going to suffer." What a contradiction! To admit that he was the Christ, and then to turn around and say that God's Son was meant to suffer. This had to be so shocking that Jesus actually had to tell the disciples not to mention it at all, because it just plain would not have been understood. And I don't think we have gotten over this yet ourselves. We still do not want to acknowledge that Jesus had to suffer. You know, all Christian denominations celebrate Easter, but many of them kind of pass over Good Friday. And I think too many of us allow ourselves to focus solely on the promised heaven, while overlooking the suffering that it actually took to open heaven for us. Many Christians look at a crucifix. They look at a cross with the body of Jesus hanging on it, and they ask us whether or not we believe in the resurrection. Well, of course we believe in the resurrection. Well, why, if we do believe in the resurrection, why keep the body on the cross? Well, we keep the body on the cross because we cannot afford to forget what it took to bring us the resurrection in the first place. What it took to win forgiveness. We cannot forget this. First, Jesus had to suffer and die. And you and I keep Jesus' body on the cross to remind ourselves of the cost of discipleship. Whoever wishes to be my follower must deny his very self, take up his cross daily, and follow me. You know, this is not always an easy thing for us to hear. And it's not always easy for us to fulfill. But we must not forget the cross. So, what is your cross? You know, is it just all your bumps and grinds and all the things that you got to go through day by day by day? Let me give you an example. I know a guy who's retired now. He's a retired finance guy. And I think this is a good Father's Day example as well. This guy that I'm thinking of, he's really sharp with things mechanical and electrical. And he's laid more than his fair share of flooring, and he's replaced countless square feet of window glass. And he's also kept more than one car running longer than it had a right to. And now he happily shuttles among his children's homes, repairing this and installing that, and researching solutions to bigger household issues, and offering his tremendous wisdom and guidance of experience on major purchases. And oh yeah, he also has first right of refusal when a babysitter is needed for his grandchildren. Although, let me tell you, he's more of another playmate than a sitter. And you know something? I know this guy really well. And his children just love him to pieces. And they appreciate their dad. And they know just how lucky they are to have him. And you know what? He's so happy to be of help to the people that he loves the most. And he always says, "That's my cross." That's his cross, believe it or not. And he feels so blessed to be able to carry it. You know, we always tend to think of crosses as burdens, things, people who demand so much energy and time from us. We see our sufferings and our brokenness as crosses that condemn us to unfulfilled lives and unrealized dreams. And most days we would like to lay those crosses aside and never pick them up again. But you know something? If you discover that our real crosses, the crosses that God places on our shoulders and Christ bears with us, are really our sources of hope. They are our sources of joy, of discovery, of life, of resurrection, for both our others and for ourselves. Discipleship, my friends, really means to take up whatever crosses are laid upon our shoulders, knowing that with the love of God within us, we can transform every single Good Friday into Easter joy. Now, isn't that what it's really all about? Think about it. Think about it. Then grab your cross and run with it.